Protein is one of the macronutrients that is very essential to our body. Uh, Let us know what is protein. Proteins are large, complex molecules that have a variety of functions in the body and are essential to good health. Like fats and carbohydrates, proteins are long polymer chains. They are made from amino acids and are used by organisms to build structures, facilitate chemical processes, and give an animal locomotion. So, what are some characteristics of a protein? First is amino acids. Proteins are made of long strings of amino acids, which are often called the building blocks of life. Amino acids are chemicals that consist of a carbon atom that is attached to a hydrogen atom, an amine group, and an acid group. Each amino acids contain another group known as the R group, which has its own unique hydrocarbon structure. There are 20 amino acids that are essential to bodily functions, 8 of which cannot be manufactured by the human body. This is why proteins are so important to a person's diet. Size. When two amino acids came together, they form a peptide bond. When only a few amino acids attach to each other, it is just a small peptide chain. So all proteins are formed from a long chain of amino acid which can number in thousands of units. Structure. The sequence of amino acids in a protein determines its shape, which in turn determines its function. Some proteins, like those in hair, are known as fibrous proteins, and those individual blobs are called globular proteins. Further shape comes from the tertiary structure, which is in the form of molecule takes when the attractive and repulsive forces from different regions of the molecule balance out. Denaturing. Denaturing a protein can alter or completely destroy its ability to do its job. Strength. Muscles, bones, hair, and connective tissue contain strong proteins to form the structure of a living body. Stored energy. Like carbohydrates and fats, proteins can be metabolized by organisms for their stored energy. Biological processes. Proteins have multiple uses in the body, including enzymes, which make biological processes react faster, hormones, which control the body's processes, and antibodies, which protect organisms from disease. Proteins are also used by the body to transport materials in cells and provide structures. Amino acids, the building block of proteins. So what are amino acids? Amino acids are building block of proteins. Proteins are composed of 20 different amino acids encoded by standard genetic code construct proteins in all species. They are molecules containing both amino acid and carboxyl groups attached to the same A carbon. Their chemical structure influences three-dimensional structure of proteins. They are important intermediates in metabolism. They can have hormonal and catalytic function. Several genetic disorders are caused in amino acid metabolism error. The basic structure of amino acids differ only in the structure of the side chain or the R group. The amino acids are classified into different ways based on structure, polarity, nutritional requirement, and metabolic fate. Essential amino acids. Amino acids are divided into two distinct groups. First, the essential or indispensable amino acids. Second, non-essential or dispensable amino acids. So the essential amino acids in human, it is required in diet. Humans incapable of forming requisite carbon skeleton. So those essential amino acids in children, not in adults. And the non-essential amino acids They are not required in a diet and can be formed from keto acids by transamination and subsequent reaction. All amino acids except glycine are chiral molecules. In amino acids, the chiral carbon is the alpha carbon that is bonded to a hydrogen, amino group, carboxyl group, and R group. Acid-base properties of amino acids. All amino acids contain an acidic carboxyl group and a basic amino group. So in short, all amino acids, they are neutral. Cysteine, a chemically unique amino acid. Cysteine is one of the few amino acids that contain sulfur. This allows cysteine to bond in a special way and maintain the structure of proteins in the body. Cysteine is a component of the antioxidant glutathione. The body uses cysteine to produce taurine, another amino acid. Peptide. A peptide is a short chain of amino acids. The amino acids in a peptide are connected to one another in a sequence by bonds called peptide bonds. Typically, peptides are distinguished from proteins by their shorter length. Peptides are generally considered to be short chains of two or more amino acids. Meanwhile, proteins are long molecules made up of multiple peptide subunits and are also known as polypeptides. Biochemical importance of small peptides. Peptides are biologically and medically important molecules. They naturally occur within organisms, plus lab-synthesized compounds are active when introduced into a body. Peptides act as natural components of cells, tissues, hormones, toxins, antibiotics, and enzymes. Peptide versus protein. The term peptide and protein are commonly confused. Not all peptides form proteins, but all proteins consist of peptides. What is the general structure characteristic of protein? Protein structure is the three-dimensional arrangement of atoms in an amino acid chain molecule. Proteins are polymers, specifically polypeptides formed from sequences of amino acids, the monomers of the polymer. A single amino acid monomer may also be called a residue indicating a repeating unit of a polymer. The amino acids present in proteins differ from each other in the structure of their R chains. The simplest amino acid is glycine, in which R is a hydrogen atom. What is the primary structure of protein? The simplest level of protein structure, the primary structure, is simply the sequence of amino acids in a polypeptide chain. The amino acids in the primary structure are held together by covalent bonds, which are made during the process of protein synthesis. The secondary structure of a protein refers to the coiling or folding of a polypeptide chain that gives the protein its 3D shape. There are two types of secondary structures observed in proteins. One type is alpha helix structure. This structure resembles a coiled spring and is secured by hydrogen bonding in the polypeptide chain. The second type of secondary structure in proteins is the beta-pleated sheet. Tertiary structure of a protein refers to the comprehensive 3D structure of the polypeptide chain of a protein. Quaternary structure of a protein refers to the structure of a protein macromolecule formed by interactions between multiple polypeptide chains. Each polypeptide chain is referred to as a subunit. Proteins with quaternary structure may consist of more than one of the same type of protein subunit. Protein hydrolysis. How does hydrolysis break down proteins? Proteins are digested by hydrolysis of the carbon-nitrogen bond. Peptidases are secreted in an in inactive form to prevent autodigestion. Endopeptidases cleave the polypeptides and the interior peptide bands, and the exopeptidases cleave the terminal amino acids. So, protein hydrolysis is a complex process that involves a complex sequence of enzymic reactions, each with a specific kinetic reaction for multiple substrates. Protein denaturation. The process that causes a protein to lose its shape is known as denaturation. Denaturation is usually caused by external stress on the protein, such as solvents, inorganic salts, exposure to acids or bases, and by heat. So one of example of this is when you fry an egg. So the protein of an egg, it solidify because of extreme heat. Protein classification based on shape. On the basis of their shape, proteins may be divided into two classes, the fibrous and the globular. So, in the fibrous protein, they have primarily mechanical and structural functions. Some fibrous proteins, such as alpha-keratins, are only partially hydrolyzed in the intestine. So here are some examples: the fibroin produced by spiders and insects, the collagen, and the elastin. The globular proteins. Examples of globular proteins are myoglobin, hemoglobin, and cytochrome C. At the intestinal level, most of the globular proteins of animal origin are hydrolyzed almost entirely to amino acids. Protein classification based on biological functions. First, enzymes or biochemical catalysts. Specific proteins are called enzymes. They have a high catalytic power, increasing the rate of reaction in which they are involved at least by factor. Therefore, life as we could know could not exist without their facilitating action. Almost known enzymes and in the human body they are thousands are proteins. The transport proteins. Many small molecules, organic and inorganic, are transported in the bloodstream and extracellular fluids across the cell membranes and inside the cells from one compartment to another with specific proteins. Storage proteins. Example: ferritin that stores iron intracellularly in a non-toxic form that act as a reserve of amino acids for the milk. They are involved in nerve transmission, protein control, development, and differentiation. Hormones. So many hormones are proteins. They are regulatory molecules involved in the control of many cellular functions from metabolism to reproduction. Mechanical support. Proteins have a pivotal role in the stabilization of many structures. Protein generate movement. They are responsible, among others, for the contraction of muscle fibers. Protection against harmful agents. So the antibodies or immunoglobulins are glycoproteins that recognizes antigens expressed on the surface of viruses, bacteria, and other infectious agents. Storage of energy. Protein, and in particular the amino acids that constitute them, act as energy storage, second in size only to the adipose tissue that in particular conditions such as prolonged fasting and may become essential for living. Glycoproteins are proteins which contain oligosaccharide chains or glycans covalently attached to amino acid side chains. The carbohydrate is attached to the protein in a translational or translational modification. This process is known as glycosylation. Secreted extracellular proteins are often glycosylated. Lipoprotein. Any member of a group of substances containing both lipid or fat and protein. They occur in both soluble complexes and in soluble complexes as in egg yolk and mammalian blood plasma, and insoluble ones as in cell membranes. Lipoproteins in blood plasma has been intensively studied because they are the mode of transport for cholesterol through the bloodstream and the lymphatic fluid. What is the function of lipoprotein? The role of lipoprotein particles is to transport all fat molecules such as triacylglycerols, also known as the triglycerides, phospholipids, and cholesterol within the extracellular water of the body to all the cells and tissues in the body.